We're here at Blain Southern to talk to Bosco Sodi about his new exhibition and the philosophy behind his work. You work with fairly crude raw materials that are quite fragile. How difficult is it for you to transport your works across the globe?
Well, it's always a challenge, and the problem is that I work with also, because I never think about the outcome of the work. I think much more about the process. I'm never worried about it's going to be too heavy, it's going to be too fragile. But at the end, it's a challenge much more for the gallery and for the institutions when they want to do a show. But we have for example, in Casa Wabi, I have a carpenter that he has done a lot of furniture for us and doors. That my studio teach him exactly what we like to do, how we like to do the boxes, and because it's in a very far away place, and they are not our handlers, they are our companies. So we teach him how to do it, and then we did the boxes exactly for the pieces. The design. Same thing with the rocks in Guadalajara. We ask another carpenter to prepare the boxes exactly the way we want them, and then from them, then the gallery takes care of it from the transport and everything with a professional art handler.
But I know you've spent quite a lot of time in Japan and that you draw from the philosophy of Wabi-sabi. Mm-hmm. Isn't that about not minding if things change or get damaged?
See, it's about letting the accident happen, the non-control, the passing of time, the etching, and how all these things together make things unique. How the things we don't control, the things that we let go, at the end, they become unique objects, and they have this special energy. And I think also when you read these objects in art or just in objects, it gives you a feeling of the intemporality of life and how we're going to be here just for a while, no?
So does this play a big role in your work, would you say?
See, very big role in my work. Also, all the philosophy of my work is based on that, on working with organic materials or organic forms, and working with in the way that there is a lot of accident, a lot of non-control, about letting go the outcome of the painting, and just try to get as much as possible accidents and non-predictable things.
And is that just during the process of the making, or does that also apply, so for example, if they did get damaged in transit?
Sometimes if the damage is manageable, I also don't care. It's not like sometimes I retouch. You can see on some of these ones that the cracks, I retouch the cracks because I like also that. It's part of the history of the object. It's not a TV. You know what I mean? So people in the art world has to understand that. It's not an object of producing mass production. It's something organic and natural that has accident, that has a history of, as you were saying, of transporting, of installing, and everything.
Where does the title of the show come from, and what does it mean?
Yugen, it's a Japanese word that doesn't have a translation in Occidental words. That it's this kind of feeling that you get when you see something so beautiful or so poetically strong that you have not words to describe it. And it talks about the profound and mysterious beauty of the universe that cannot be described by words. This is kind of overwhelming feeling, no? That mostly you get when you're watching nature or natural things, no? And I wanted to use that title because I always try to find very abstract titles in the way that people, when they read the work, there is not a hint or what they have to read or make an interpretation. It has to be very abstract. So this is a title much more about the feeling than about the work that is shown.
Do the individual works have titles?
No, never.
No, never?
No, never, because I like people to, because if I put the title like moon, light, everybody says, yes, I see the moon, because people is very lazy now. The viewer has become very lazy because they're used now to the artists that they explain them everything and they tell them what they have to feel. And on the contrary, my philosophy is not. The viewer has to have his own choices and make any interpretations without feeling stupid. Now it's a feeling that we have a lot, that we go to a museum and we feel stupid because we don't get the piece, no? Until we get a piece of paper and say, blah, blah, blah. I say, yes. And I would like much more this freedom and letting the mind and the soul go into a journey with the work, because the work is alive really when somebody makes when somebody reads it. No?
Yeah. So they're made as a response with your own feelings, but then the viewers will have
Exactly.
their own feelings.
There are different interpretation, feelings, and everything.
Where does the inspiration come from for the? So there's two sets of work in here, but maybe the ones on the wall first.
Well, no, my work is not so much about the inspiration. It's much more about the process. I'm more focused on the process, on the making of, or the research, on testing, on experimenting, and then the outcome is completely secondary. So there is not something like I woke up and say, now I feel inspired. It's much more like I have this idea and I'm going to try to make this idea. And the idea never happens as you think, but you have these kind of accidents or small things that you take them and embrace them, and then it's a process of like researching in a lab or something like that.
But you're not working in a lab?
No, I'm not working in a lab, but it's a kind of lab. I mean, it's not if you come to my studio, it's very chaotic and you have a lot of things happening at the same time, a lot of experiments, different pigments, with testing different pigments, different kinds of sawdust, different materials. It works a lot like a lab. Of course, not with a microscope or anything like that, but I mean, it's always researching and looking for accidents and looking for new things.
And is your studio within the foundation that you've set up in Mexico?
Well, I have one studio in the foundation, but also I have a studio in Barcelona and one studio in New York. Because I like also a lot the concept of moving from one studio to another in order to arrive, to prepare. I like a lot the concept of preparing the studio to work, like to buy the pigments, get the sawdust, prepare everything. That's like a warming up to do new work. Otherwise I get bored if I stay too long in one of the studios.
So is the work that you make in each different country quite different?
Completely different, even if I use the same pigments or something. I mean, they're very site-specific in the sense that the weather, the water, the sawdust, it changed completely, and the outcome changed completely. And that's beautiful also for me, because it's really non-predictable.
And does the work then change once it's finished being made? So will these works continue to change, or are they solid?
No, more or less after 2 months, they're dry. And the process of the own process of the work, it's completely finished.
Can you tell us a bit about the process?
Well, on the case of the paintings, I paint on horizontal. It's a very physical way of painting because I go around the painting. I have a bucket of matter with pigments, and it's like a kind of clay in a way, made with sawdust. And I'm going around the painting, dropping, but it's also everything with the hands. I never use a brush. And doing like this kind of sculptural work, and I keep working for 5 or 6 or 7 days, and then when I see the first crack, I stop and I let the painting go by itself. So there are those 2 processes in my work: the process that I control, and the process that I let go and wait for the surprise of the outcome.
And where did the sparkly bits come from? Is that?
The sparkly, it's a pigment that I bought in Japan, but it's a white pigment, very strange. And I bought it for a white painting that I wanted to do. And then I had a silver painting and just drop a little bit just to see how it looked, and it made a chemical reaction and it became green. But that doesn't happen with the white or with the red ones, or just with the silver ones, because of the component of the silver painting, and it has to be very wet. So it was this kind of accident, and then I saw it and I like it, I embrace it, and I did all this series with this kind of accident that at the end became part of my process.
So they're literally just left out to dry in the sun?
Not in the sun, no, it depends. In the studio in Mexico, yes, sometimes in the sun, but mostly they're staying there with it drying. Sometimes when it's very humid, it takes 2 months. When it's not humid, it's shorter, but also the cracking is completely different. The way it's humidity, the cracking goes more slowly, settle. And when there is a big heat shock, or how do you say, the cracking is very fractal in a way.
And what's underneath? Is it on canvas? No.
It's on canvas, yes. But there is so much matter involved that at the end the canvas doesn't work anymore. I mean, the own matter is what holds the work.
And what about the rocks? Are they rocks?
Well, these rocks, I go to a volcano near Mexico that the name is the Ceboruco. I choose the rocks that I like the forms. We take them out from there, we clean them, but we don't cut them at all. We clean them, and then I glaze them first with red at 1,280 degrees. And then if they come okay from the kiln, we glaze them again with real gold, 18 karat gold, a very thin layer, of course. And the concept is to get this common thing as a rock, that anybody look at it when you pass it there in the volcano. There are thousands and thousands of rocks. Take it out from their context and convert it into this object of desire or precious object, No, that it's, I mean, completely illogical. When I glaze them in red and gold, as I was saying before, but you never know exactly, because remember that when you glaze, the glaze is completely white. So when they enter to the kiln, they're white, so you don't know exactly how it's going to melt. So maybe if this rock was very close in the kiln to the fire, maybe this part melted much more than was predicted. So that's why you can see the red from inside coming out from the but was not on purpose. I mean, when I painted it, the rock looked exactly the same, white. So you have these kind of accidents that also they're beautiful. And then I mean, maybe for me this is my favorite rock, because it has this kind of thing that was not predicted. No? When you work with a glaze, the range of temperatures, they have to be very specific, otherwise the color burns or doesn't stick. In the glaze, it's changing all the time, from 1,000 to 2,200, 1,000 to 200, and so we have been trying to do glaze in the kiln of Casa Wabi, and we haven't been able to. Well, sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't come out, depending on the weather, on what are we using as fuel. Sometimes we use wood, sometimes coconut skin, sometimes seeds, so it depends. But in order to do glaze, you have to be in a very specific range of temperature.
You've mentioned Casa Wabi. Can you tell us a bit about the foundation? And you do work with international artists.
Casa Wabi is a foundation that I opened 1.5 years ago. It's a multidisciplinary art residency that we invite artists from all around the world, from all ages, from all sex, from all disciplines. And we don't ask them to do, I mean, even though each one has a studio if he wants to work, but we don't ask them to work. The only thing that we ask them is to do a very solid project with the local communities. All the local communities in Oaxaca, they're very low-income communities that they don't have any contact with art, maybe a little bit with music, but not with other arts. So the only thing we ask the artists to give us a very solid project that they're going to do with the local community. That it can be a workshop or lectures or, I mean, anything they want. So it's a different approach to the art residency. The normal art residency, they ask you to work or maybe to donate a work. We don't want anything from them. What we want from them is that they give something to the local communities in the essence, not of a work. But some of them, they have donated the work to the community. So it's funny because, not funny, but I mean, it's interesting because now you go to these very far away local communities and you see a sculpture of a well-known artist with people that really appreciate it, not because of his value, commercial value, because of his aesthetic value, you know what I mean? Not just aesthetic value, and also they were part of that, of the production of that sculpture or painting or whatever.
And how is it for you? Because you make work that you show outside in more sort of rural areas like that, but you also then bring it into the galleries. Mm-hmm. How different is that, and how?
Well, the context is completely different. No, it's a very interesting feeling in the way that you never do the work thinking about the gallery. No, you do it because you like that project, and at the end seeing it, how to say, encerrado, caged in these kind of precious places, and well, it's part of the art world, no? Yeah. It's not the most amazing choice, but it's part of the art world.